In this 100 days challenge, I'll be playing a brand new overhaul mod, Primal Nemesis, which introduces over 1,000 custom dinos along with 25 new bosses with godlike abilities, making it a very intense mod. From exploding beasts to massive sized dinos, we'll be facing off some of the most powerful creatures this mod has to offer, and we'll be doing it in style with godlike powers of our own. And the only thing that stands in my path to victory is Nemesis the Godly Guardian and every boss leading up to him. I have teamed up with the Kisa to help me beat this mod in 100 days. On day 1, I woke up by some ruins with a suspicious roar in the background. Okay. My first goal was to try to not be eaten and hopefully make some weapons to defend myself. There was a frost wyvern nearby, but it didn't seem aggressive, so I just kept on picking up some rocks and leftover trees. Wow. Then I made myself a stone pick and I was gonna jump down this tower here, but suddenly the wyvern threw off a breath attack. Oh my god. He's not aggressive, is he?
Oh no.
What do you mean, oh no? I'm taking that as a sign for it is. So then I made a run for it, but then my loot goblin mode kicked in when I spotted a bag filled with some items. Ooh la la! I continued on my escape from the wyvern that didn't seem to chase me down, but I got gobbled down by some piggies. Oh no! The end. I'm just kidding. I respawned, unfortunately. But before we make our second run, you know what I'll just tell you one thing. Why not consider subscribing to a man like me, okay? Yeah, you could just press that button right there. Yeah, that little one. Wow. You do something like that, it's gonna get really good. It's gonna get good. Okay, that's enough of me yapping. Apparently, the pig was able to hit me for 2,000 damage, so I decided not to try to recover my things. It's not like those things were good either way. Oh, hell no. And then further down here, I saw the most peculiar thing ever. A magenta, goofy-looking monkey. Where are you going? Excuse me. Nope, I'm going over there. Leave me alone. Bruh. This area here had me a little bit worried, especially when I got chased down by a kitty cat. Bruh. Bruh, come on. Aww. Alright, so this snow area wasn't really working out, so I decided to switch up my game a bit by spawning in Amissa city instead. This felt a little bit more calm, and it had amazing looks and a beautiful nature in sight. But when I tried to make my tools again, a very small creature tried attacking me that was impossible to spot in this tall grass. What is this? I'm being chased by something. I can't see it, the grass is too tall. Sounds like a dodo. Help! I was gonna try making myself a spear to see if I could possibly get rid of it. It was a pygmy apex dodo, so surely I could definitely handle that, but it wasn't possible for me to tag it from up here. So I tried going into the open grass to try clapping this pygmy dodo, but apparently this ant of a dodo hits like a truck. Okay, it does one-shot you. After that pathetic attempt, I felt truly defeated taking an L to a little dodo. This really shows how harsh this mod can be. So I'm not really trying to ruin the moment here, but I came across a very interesting Twitter post by Neketus where you can apparently reduce the grass volume, where in my opinion, this makes the game a lot better. Either way, I wanted to try working on getting some hide to make myself a bola. I highly wanted it due to these annoyances sticking around these parts. I saw Moshops getting bothered by a dillo, so I saw an opportunity and I was gonna try stealing his prey, but the dillo didn't quite like that. What? After my second or third respawn, I think, I was gonna go grab my item cache, but I was gonna take a shortcut and jump over the fence, but there was a hidden river here that stopped me from doing that. Oh no, I can't swim up this. I had to swim for a while, trying to find a way out of here. Herrejösses, finally some land. And after getting out of the river, I was in some sort of a starter zone that was safe, and I had a little bit of stuff around there, so I could try making some equipment. So I unlocked the spyglass inside my brain, and with the sun going down, I made a torch to get some light in this dark forest. It turned into complete darkness here, and I didn't see this dillo scampering towards me, so I panicked. Hello? What was that? Oh, no, I can't check it right now. So I thought it was gonna be some kind of a modded one, but it was just a normal dillo. Pressing on to day 2, I got some armor to help me from turning into popsicle. I also had to get some of this dillo meat cooked too, because this cold makes me slightly hungry. Anyways, now I was able to make the most useful tool at any starting phase. The usefulness of this tool is just a must-have, especially when you get these scenarios. But after harvesting this alpha dillo, it dropped me some alpha blood and hide that will be used for kibble and saddles. So after running around in this area, I found myself a magna gecko that I tamed up using this pot of mashed bugs, where I named him Ben. Ben also had a few abilities, like dropping his tail to probably distract dinos that would be chasing him. But now, I decided to get out of this area to explore a bit more of this world, where I saw a red lystro with burning glowing eyes. He was able to get bolad, but it took many spears to his head to defeat him. And after that, I spotted a pterodon that could be essential tame right now to get, so I made a club to try knocking it out, but it was a high level, but I was giving it my all. The pterodon also got suddenly alpha buffed by something, so my damage reduced from a 4 to peasant number 1. So thanks to the alpha buff, the pterodon was able to escape and I cried. Anyways, I figured I could try following the river walking down this path here, where 2 dodos came sprinting after my glutes. I quickly dealt with them and I could continue on my exploration. In this river here, I saw some glowing fish that caught my interest, but that quickly dropped when I discovered it was just a bunch of piranhas. A baryonyx appeared out of nowhere too, so I was worried about continuing further downriver. But somehow I got past the baryonyx, so I went on with my journey to find a good spot to place down my starter base. And up here I was thinking of crossing over the river, but I saw something red enjoying the cool water. That, my friends, was an alpha or an apex baryonyx, and we don't want to mess with that. So when it's like no piranhas nearby, there seems to be something else lurking in the water. Always. I got a little bit too scared and I decided to stay on the side for now since it felt peaceful right now. So then I got to work on getting some trees chopped down so I could start building my foundations. I picked out a very nice spot by the beach near the water and I got a bed down as well due to how many ungodly dinos are roaming this world. I'm anticipating a lot of respawning in my future, so I got some meat split up in my inventory too and a mortar placed out because I was gonna need a lot of tranks for taming any of these new god dinos. And with my starter base being finally built a bit, I wanted to see if I could get myself a berry harvester. There was a Mo shops I spotted a few steps away from me, but I got a squad of compies being interested in me. So I got rid of those pesky bugs and I went to tame up my Mo shops. Nice. The Mo shops wasn't that good since I wasn't getting that much narco berries, but it was definitely way better than picking with my hands alone. On my way back home from my so-called berry haul, I got chased down by an apex compy that was super persistent. His HP barely went down and he was literally turning into porcupine. And finally, after 1,000 spears, he was out of the game. That took quite a lot of spears, I can tell you that. But then I proceeded making one of these primal cauldrons, which works exactly like a mortar and pestle, but it's like 10 times faster. It will also be used as the prime structure to craft the kibble for taming these modded dinos. And towards the end of the day, I wanted to get working on a forge so we could elevate our tools to something better. The bright sky was a haven to my eyes, but an eyesore for my FPS. It dropped significantly, but at least the sky was pretty, right? On day 3, I got the forge finally made, but to what use? I only had 2 scrap of raw metal. So I guess it's time to hit the beach and hit some of these rocks to get a little bit of metal. Hide would also have to be acquired for that wonderful smithy in order to make better tools. So I poked at these geckos here with my long spear on the beach until they kindly gave me some hide. After getting a bit more rocks, I had to admire how beautiful the sunrise is on this map. But after fixing my mouth from how jaw-dropping the sunrise was, I remember I still had to get my smithy cooked up. Now I got this amazing tool so I could clean up the beach for some more scraps. I didn't have a good source for collecting any metal at this moment, so this beach would just have to work for now. And while I was daydreaming of some better metal tools, I knocked myself to sleep. I knocked myself out, great. Now I just had to sit and wait patiently for some more metal, just to make the hatchet. But I didn't want to sit idly by and wait, so I ran further down the beach and I saw a sweaty dillo. He wasn't bowlable and my spears didn't seem to do anything to me either, so I panicked and I jumped into this ocean with 0 stam. And so when I resurfaced, I got kinda caught. Well, my gecko didn't make it either, and that's pretty unfortunate, but I had other worries to think about. Dude, like this Dilophosaurus is so fast, like you can't outrun it. I continued running down the beach since I was curious what other dinos I could stumble over here, but I had some sort of a gillidodo snaking out of the bush to poke at me with his pointy beak. What is that? Did it just steal?
Did it?
What is that ability? and throwing spears onto him didn't feel like it did anything. So I was trying to kite him around, but then I got obliterated by some sort of a bee. Oh! Okay, I died from a bee. And running back to my bag seemed a little bit scary, but I kept to myself and the bee would do the same. I'm honestly surprised my armor has stayed intact after all of this else so far.
I want to be a bee. Bzz, 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 bzz.
Well, after that pathetic attempt of doing any sort of exploration, I was back home and I could finally make the hatchet to collect a bit of more wood, only to discover I was surrounded by another bee. Oh no! And this one was probably just as bad as the other one. Bro, oh my god, it does 7k damage. So I considered farming up some wood to wall up my place a bit from the bee, but then again... Okay, so the best bet would be to get out of this zone considering those numbers he did to me. And traversing on this map is gonna be hard unless I can make myself a raft, and in the Primal Nemesis they do offer quite a few options, but I don't think I'm gonna be capable of farming anything beyond XL. So it was time for the side quest of farming up some hide to quickly get out of here. The Dinos didn't seem to provide that much hide when I desperately needed it. I'm not getting that much hide from these creatures either. There isn't enough dodos here anymore. So I just had to pick at whatever I could find at this point. This dodo also seems to drop a chibi for some reason, so that's pretty cool to get some random drops here and there. But after gathering a bit of hide from a lot of the dinos around here, the wind was kinda chilly and I was literally turning into an icicle. I just couldn't do anything about it. Alright, after picking up my stuff and running back to my base on day 4 in this disastrous cold weather, I collapsed again from the cold wind. Yeah, there's just no way. But with my respawn, I could finally make the XL raft I struggled so hard to get. There were just a few things I had to move over because I hadn't planned on staying in this part due to the intense cold and of course the short-tempered bees. But before I had time to get everything sorted out of the raft, my Moshops took a blast from that bee, which now left me with no tames. That's just great. I zoomed over to the other side since it looked somewhat calmer on this side, so I could progress without any major hiccups. I had expanded my raft just a little bit more now in case I would have to live on it, even if it's just temporary. I was desperate for shelter right now. Afterwards, I took my raft out to look for some dodos to catch. Their eggs will mean a great deal to me in the future. Alright, I got now a few dodos that will be sufficient for now. Then I continued on my way down, sticking close to this beach here just to see if I could spot any Moshops or a parasaur to tame. I will need to get some sleepy juice for making a bit of trank hours so we could get some proper dinos. But as I was traveling the same route, I saw my first King Titan that seemed a little bit hostile because he was literally bonking the very ground. What is he doing? Oh my god. I feel like I want to Spyglass if anything right now. Oh, he's so aggressive, he attacks everything. So I went a little bit further down here to see if I could sneak past the King Titan to also see if I could spot any tames to get or a little bit of crystal. But there was apparently camouflaged rock golem waiting for me. What the f... No! There's 2 of them! I shouldn't have gone to that beach. The rock elemental still wanted me and was just under my raft following me in the water. Oh, they're swimming! They're swimming after me! Bro, like, come on. Are you serious? Maybe if we can get them deep enough, they won't follow me. They stop following me. But I have a lead after me, very far away. Oh, I have another lead. But after leading those small rock golems away, I was back at the beach once again, since I wanted to try recovering my belongings somehow. I saw some sort of a blue circle all over the beach, but it was slightly far enough for me to not worry about it. Jesus Christ! That ability has a huge range, so that forced me to retreat and ignore my lost belongings. And to be fair, it was already lost by the time the rock golem showed up. So while I was rafting back to the boring beach I was at before, I want you guys to comment below and guess how many times you think I'm gonna die in this video, and don't skip to the end because I will find you and I will end you. Aside from that, on day 5 I wanted to get any of these new modded tools since harvesting is slightly higher on them. So then I made this new primal forge and I placed it, but only to realize I couldn't make anything in it. I'm assuming alpha zinc ore? How do we even get zinc ore? Oh, I see. You need obsidian for it. Oh yeah, that's gonna take a while. But despite that, I ran further down the beach only to run into a high-level pterodon, so I decided to knock it out for now until I can get my hands on a saddle. And I had my luck since there was a roaming baby dodo chick, so I quickly got some nuggies from that so the pterodon could enjoy it. Anyways, I was gonna continue down the beach until I almost ran into one of these other rock golems again. Oh no! But on the other side of the beach, I managed to find a Moshaps to tame that didn't require anything silly and had some Moshaps babies I could adopt too. And as much as I want these baby shops, it wasn't just convenient right now since I had no good way of transporting them. But despite that, it was time to start moving towards the boat. I just had to avoid the beach for now since I saw a rock golem and a crab was idly waiting for me. So while I was back at my raft, I considered placing out some dino gates, but I remembered that the rock golem can literally just trample it down, so it might be better off moving to a more risk-free area. I had to try distancing myself far away from a lot of the modded dinos, and I happened to find this island here that was extremely calm. I couldn't see any dinos in sight at all, and it was flourishing with trees and rocks. So I got right to work and I placed out some dino gates, but I just remembered my Tames I left behind, so I quickly went back to fetch them. But then I saw the very rock golem walking in the water, so that was a very sign for me to move to the island. On day 6, my walling gates was finally being closed up. I didn't want to take any risks, so walling up for now would be good. Then I also made one of these steampunk skins from the Bob Tall Tales DLC to give these gates a bit more finished look. There were just a few missing doors left to fix up. So a bit later, I placed down some crop plots because I will need the 4 crops to be able to tame any of the modded dinos, and it would probably be a good idea to get started on that as soon as possible. I got a workbench placed out so I can make myself a compost bin, but this doesn't work like the normal compost bin because this will pick up poop from the ground of dinos and also pull thatch from any structure close to it. And since we're playing a massive overhaul, I kinda need some automation. I got most of my things off from the boat and I placed out in a temporary area for now. I wasn't completely sure I wanted to build here yet since there was so much left to explore. The next day I made this egg crate which can pick up eggs from the dinos that drop it, so I don't have to worry about doing it myself. And after getting most of my things sorted out in my starter base, I needed to gather a bit of hide for a bed that I could have on the raft, so I was boating out to that dangerous beach again. And while I was going to the beach, Akisa and I talked about Colossus geckos, which in fact isn't part of Primal Nemesis, and they're usually a small creature. But just somehow, Primal Nemesis made them super chonky. I mean, look at this chonky gecko, he's thick, man. And after collecting a bit of hide from animals, I was gonna return back to my boat to place out this bed and a storage, but then I got stuck in the most inconvenient spot ever. I couldn't even try putting it down in any position at all, and reconnecting didn't help at all. I'm still stuck! Yeah, I know, I don't know. The only outcome here is that I have to destroy it.
That's annoying.
That's very annoying. And now I don't have enough hide to make all of these things. So, I was typically stuck here now on this beach and I couldn't return home unless I went to the afterlife or made a new raft. And knowing this beach, I know it's filled with a lot of dangerous bees. Oh! Oh no! Anyways, a bit later, I was finally able to make a raft, but it was only the cheap version since I didn't have enough for the XL version I had before. Because some people are struggling right now. But at least I could leave this area. The goal right now was actually working on getting some chitin or something because I wanted to get the pterodon saddle made immediately, since sticking to the ground has proven to be extremely dangerous. After getting rid of all of these turtles on this beach for their keratin, I was back at my home again and I could finally make the pterodon saddle and fly to the skies. With me having access to a flyer, I took the time to explore this place more thoroughly and I paid attention to the fact that nothing actually spawned on this island. That means it's a work in progress of an island and that can be really bad if the developer updates this area. Because you never know, suddenly I might have a big rock in my base. Anyways, I went back to the mainland to tame a parasaur. And after I caught that parasaur, I spotted a female pterodon over the water that I just bowled to check if it was a female or not. Oh, it's a female. Then I got it knocked out on my raft so I would be able to move it around and it wouldn't drown as well. That was pretty clever. On day 8, I finally got my pterodons to make me an egg that would be imprinted for some bonuses. But anyways, I did a bit of research today and I found out something incredibly bad. The island I live on right now is in fact a rock drake island that is a work in progress, so this place will be a no-go in the future, so I will have to move very soon. I was only researching where penguins could be hiding on Amissa because I wanted to go and tame a few of them for polymer farm. But this is also my very first time playing this map since I didn't really play it on ASC. But now I can finally explore what's top of this rock formation, and I discovered some metal along with some tin ore and copper. I wasn't sure what to make out of it yet, but I was pretty sure it was for the modded items. And getting some crystal is a major change because that will allow me to get a spyglass finally. It's been very difficult without one after this many days. Alright, I saw that those new ores are for making the very new ingots in the Primal Nemesis. I got a Primal Nemesis workbench placed out now after all of this time because I wanted to get a better metal tool. But I found out that I needed obsidian to make the zinc ore. So then I started by building a little bit for the greenhouse. And with these new rustic greenhouse parts, I could get some greenhouse effect for my plants so they would grow a smidge faster. It's not the best, but 60% will have to do for now. At least it's not 0. But now I can make myself an awesome spyglass. It's kinda awesome because now I can see the Dinos HP and such. And in this modded environment, it will be paramount to have it. Then I was back at the rock formation and I managed to discover some obsidian. So now I will be able to get some of those modded tools made. But right now, the main goal was to go over to the snow zone and look for some penguins. But I had no clue where to find them. I flew around for quite a while, but I still couldn't find any penguins, but the oil was a little bit here and there, so I quickly stopped by for that instead. And then the cold winter had finally rolled in and I was freezing my butt off on this pterodon. He couldn't keep me warm at all, especially this far out on the map. The next day I made it out of the snow zone and I was just picking up some easy metal and obsidian on my way home from that failed attempt in the snow zone. But back at home, I discovered I had some crops now, so soon, my friends, I'll be able to make some kibble. I also got some of these new ingots cooked up because I wanted to get a brass metal pick to get a little bit of extra resources. Oh, it tells you like what you have to defeat as well to unlock the kibble. So if you want to get like earth kibble, you have to defeat the apex boss. So then I made a bit of this alpha narco so we could get the new trank arrows, which should be better than the normal ones. Anyways, with me finally having my first set of kibble, I set out to go find myself my first alpha dino to tame, which will be a pterodon. And after a few minutes of flying around, I found a decent level alpha pterodon that I just aggroed and I got my normal one almost slayed. But I managed to get it bowled, knocked out and surprisingly fast too, and I then tamed it. But right now with my new alpha pterodon, I wouldn't be able to just use it just yet due to being completely exhausted of kiting like usual. Anyways, while I was out flying around for a bit, I saw some interesting floating islands that could be a good, reliable main base in the future. But a bit later, far away from the floating islands, I had flown over to the redwoods to check if there was any beaver dams around. There was indeed one, but it was so far out in the water, so I chose to ignore it for now and I headed over to the desert area, where I would find a small little base with her, thick gecko, of course. We then tribed up and I looked around just to see how far she had come along on her own. Anyways, meeting up with the Kisa was the side mission. My main goal was to collect the chitin from this jug bug so I can make my first alpha pterodon saddle. The next day I was on my way back home when I stumbled upon a whole valley of just horses. They weren't horsing around, that's for sure. But anyways, I made it back home where I started incubating some pterodon eggs for backups. I also made another alpha kibble so I would be able to get a mate for my alpha pterodon eventually. But before I could look for another alpha pterodon, I wanted to get this imprinted first. And after being disappointed by the first one I saw, I spotted a male not too far away which would be just perfect. Well, the pterodon got bowled and quickly knocked out with no effort at all. It's a pterodon after all. I also noticed it wanted 2 kibble instead of just 1. So when I got back to the base, I made an extra kibble but was also looking to make an alpha pterodon saddle, but quickly found out I was missing out on all of the hide. Nice. Well, we made it back home with the pterodon and we got started on getting some eggs immediately. On day 11, I placed out a hitching post because I heard that the dinos can make eggs when they're out of render distance with this. And by the sunrise, I had placed out a few torches to controllably hatch this egg because I was desperate for an alpha pterodon. I was so tired of the old pterodon I had and I was curious if the alpha was somewhat faster than the original. Luckily, it hatched with twins, so I didn't have to be picky and I would just have to pick the best one I wanted. I also noticed that I will be able to jump into Apex tier very soon too, because I won't have to defeat any boss to unlock it. All I had to do was wait for these eggs and alpha blood to be able to craft it. The only thing left to do is to imprint these pterodons, because I had a handful of things I wanted to go out and look for. After I was done with that, I went back to the mainland in search of alphas to harvest. I managed to get some harvested, but fighting this alpha terror bird was my biggest mistake. Oh no! Since he unalived my pterodon, leaving me stranded here. There were quite a few aggressive dinos here and there that had to be taken care of as well, but apparently this dodo was carrying something that he dropped for me, which was a charm. And after getting a bit of hide collected, I stumbled upon a thick gecko I wanted to try taming, but then an uninvited bee joined in on the fun and ruined everything. Oh no! Down here on this beach, I felt extremely overwhelmed by the bees and eventually got caught by its pollen attack. Yeah, this area is way too dangerous. This is unbelievable. And believe me, I tried my best to avoid them, but I felt so weak and helpless. I even tried recovering my belongings, but this was the very bee paradise. And getting back over there was a little bit difficult since I just got beaten all the time. On my third attempt, I managed to get my items back and I skedaddled back to the raft and I rushed back home. The next day, I was just waiting for the replacement to put it into the circulation for eggs. The old generation just had to go and the new one was ready to take its place. I still didn't have enough hide to make the pterodon saddle and I had to use the old vanilla one. I was quite sad about it. Alright, after I spent almost my whole day attending to the pterodons, I finally made a new set of brass tools and then I went back to the mainland. I still was looking for some more alphas, because this bozo didn't really count how much I needed for the saddle. I also tried out my new pick and I noticed quite the change. So basically I went from farming 80 metal from a metal rock up to almost 250. But after that I was gonna go back to my boat when I saw a Colossus Allosaurus hanging by my raft, which had me a smidge concerned about my safety and for my raft. And down this river here, I actually managed to find some silica pearls that I've been dreaming about for multiple days. So I picked up as much as I could before that godly crab would trample his way over here. I made it back to base and I was short on just 7 hide for the freaking saddle. So something here would have to be sacrificed. I am not going back to the beach for 7 hide. Yeah, like there's no way I'm going back there. By the start of the next day, I got some alpha pterodon sacrificed for their precious hide, which has now allowed me to make the saddle. And once I got on the pterodon, it was just a little bit hard to tell if it was faster than the vanilla one, but I think they were almost the same. But anyways, my first and only objective today was to head over to the snow zone to catch some penguins. So after flying for a bit, I found them. And as soon as I was gonna shoot them, I noticed I didn't do too much torpor to them cluckos, but they weren't too hard to tame, and I tamed a few of them so I could just keep on raising new ones for polymer. And before I was heading back home, I grabbed a bit of oil as well, since there were piles of them out here everywhere. And then finally back at base, I cooked up a fabricator so I could eventually get some electronics for a lot of things like a soul terminal, teleporter and such. And towards the end of the day, I had to sort out some alpha pterodons since I wanted to have a good pair of them high level ones for egg making. By day 14, I was by Akisa's base to pick her up because today I had a mission and I needed her help with something. So I flew over to the redwoods because I wanted to use her as a bait for picking up some paste from this beaver dam. And that's how you use your friends to your advantage. Akisa had to be quick too because we had a flaming King Titan coming over here. Alright, Akisa managed to joink about 200 cementing paste, which I need for making a few things. So then a bit later, I was picking up some more silica pearls since I didn't have enough to make enough electronics. The very next day, I was able to craft the awesome teleporter and the pad, so I didn't have to worry too much about losing my inventory in any stupid way. I also made a chainsaw too, so I could harvest up these dinos for more resources. I noticed it was a little bit tricky harvesting them since they had some weird hitboxes. And after I got all of that fixed, I quickly flew over to Akisa's place to place down a teleporter by her base so we both had them. Then I was helping Akisa out by knocking out this Apex and Ankylosaurus, because farming metal with him is gonna help tremendously. And after I helped Akisa with that, I started chopping down some trees in her base because I had planned on expanding the greenhouse a bit. So then I started building the greenhouse, and luckily with these rustic parts, they didn't require any cementing paste, only a lot of metal, which I had. The next day, the greenhouse was still being built, but it was getting closer to being completed. Also noticed after playing on this map for a while that you don't get that many berries of any sort, so a berry farm is going to be essential to have. Then I got rid of some defects as well. I could at least use their things from them. And since I got so many baby pterodons to raise, a nanny had to be made so she could take care of them. I didn't have too much to do right now except trying to get a saddle made for the Apex Anki. So I tried out a new Apex Anki and he was insane with his farming. So it made the tools instantly obsolete by the sheer amount of resources he could collect. This is incredible. Then back at base, I made the AC unit so the eggs would hatch a little bit faster, and then a soul terminal to pick up the eggs to incubate them. And after wasting half of the time in the base incubating these eggs, I went out to farm a few bugs for chitin when suddenly one of them dropped an animated skin I could apply for my character. What did I just get? What is that? What? Okay. I felt pretty much done after farming all of those bugs for chitin, so I could have a bit of cementing paste. So when I was back at home to check on things including my face, it was pretty hard to tell what kind of expression I had. On day 18 as Rockwell, I had finally crafted the gardener, which will automatically pick up crops from any crop lots. My greenhouse also got a slight facelift with some light, so it wasn't as dark as it used to be. But anyways, it is finally time to step up my game a bit and make some Apex kibble. I am so ready to jump into the next tier since I wasn't struggle bossing as I used to. I had to get some of these Kyricus harvested and make some new trank arrows before I could go out and look for some tames. There were just a few minor preparation first though. We had decided to tame up an Apex Lysro that can produce eggs very efficiently, and their lineage grows really fast too, which will be excellent for some of their goodies like hide and such. Akisa basically has brought them over to me like a DoorDash, so I didn't have to go out of my way to pick him up. Then we were back at my base, and I had a lot of penguins ready to be harvested, and Akisa was ready with her chainsaw. I figured it might be better to let Akisa have the chainsaw because she has higher melee stat than me and would probably allow her to get more polymer. But since we were on day 18, we had the goal of attempting our very first boss fight by day 25, so we had about 7 more days to find something decent. Then a bit later, Akisa got caught by a phoenix attack in the desert, so I was gonna be a good citizen and help her to get close to her bag of items again. But we were having some difficulties.
Yeah, right there, down on the ground. Drop you down here. Ouch. I'm almost dead. There's a terror bird.
No way.
You know, I would have had enough health to deal with that if somebody had to drop me twice.
She had some trouble dealing with those pesky birds, so I had to assist her in getting rid of them so the coast was clear. Here they're coming. Oh, there's 5 of them.
You just like lure them away?
And as soon as Akisa got her items back, I was trying to see if I could try knocking out this Dodecarus with my trank arrows, but then the very phoenix came back for another taste at both of us. Oh, we're so dead. I think we just got too comfortable in the area, despite Akisa falling to the phoenix before. On day 19, I woke up in base from the latest Nightman, and I looked through the engrams and I noticed a lot of these new armor pieces that I considered actually making, because I was slightly annoyed at my current armor set that kept on breaking from any sort of dodgeball attacks. All there was left to it was just to wait for some more metal to cook up to make all of the pieces, because having only the chest plate won't be feasible. But a bit later, Akisa and I went over to an area to check it out for our main base and merge our stuff together. Like, this plateau was gorgeous and flat, but over this little bridge we noticed some sort of a gate, and once we went through it, we teleported to another spot. But anyways, this new spot we were gonna look at was actually perfect. It was already built and it had some custom musics and would be perfect for a permanent base. So it was decided, so then I went back home to cook up some more electronics for another awesome teleporter, so we could start working on moving all of our stuff over there. And as soon as I had crafted the teleporter and I went over there to place it out, It sank down into the floor and was unreachable, and I couldn't even pick it up with my pickup gun. Despite that, our new base location was filled to the brim with a lot of metal scattered across our very lands, making our trips to farm metal very short. So after a little bit of thinking, Akisa and I came up with what kind of dino we want to use against our very first boss fight. Usually a Rex is the go-to for boss fights, but we wanted to try something different and decided on a trike actually. So the next day I was about to head out to look for some trikes when I noticed that the trike saddle was cheaper to make than the Rex saddle. So it was a good call to go for these trikes. But we wasn't sure if it was gonna be powerful against the boss. So after flying around for a while, I spotted a trike on the beach I wanted to tame, but he was being attacked by a crab and I had no way to stop the crab from his meal. But I found another one in the dark forest trying to eat the Rex somehow, so I took the chance to box him in while he went from a vegan diet to carnivorous one. It was the perfect time to strike him and knock him out. At least I thought so until I ran dry on my tranky arrow suit. So then I just went back home to make some more Apex trank arrows and I hatched some more Apex eggs. I'm not sure if he knew what was up for him, but it's not like I gave him a choice, did I? Anyways, I spotted an Apex Rex on the beach that I figured I could try to see if I could fight him. But apparently his roar webbed me and fogged my mind, reducing my eye vision quite a lot. But somehow I managed to escape safe and sound, so then a bit further up this river and then up this waterfall, I had to go for a quick landing because Akisa wanted something. So when I was about to teleport, I saw a purple attack coming my way. It was a very good idea I moved. Well, the thing Akisa wanted me to come and check out was her teleporter because it was slightly bugged and she couldn't pick it up, but I could. However, it stayed in place even when I picked it up, so probably just a visual glitch. Can I just mention that these variants in this mod are pretty crazy? Like, look at this Colossus Rex, it's as big as a truck. But never mind that truck-sized Rex. Down here in the swamp, I finally found the very first snail we could finally tame. So surprisingly, I could pick it up and I brought it back to Kisa's old base so she could knock it out and tame it. So after I dropped it off by the base, I found a gigantic horse I wanted to tame. I got into position and ran up to it, but I couldn't see any way to passively feed it the kibble. Maybe I was just too short for it, I don't know. So I went up behind it to try to see if I could feed it on top of the horse, and yeah, I was just too short. I think it was kinda silly that I had to use a grapple hook just to get on top of the horse to be able to feed it. But hey, I finally got my ridiculous large horse now, so no more horsing around. Akisa took a big liking into the horse. It was as big as our very home too. But this is the first problem I'm running into with the horse. Apparently, it was way too tall to reach the small bushes and farm berries. It's quite sad, but it's actually pretty useless. I do wonder, how does he even eat? Well, I left the horse to his own problem while I went over to check Akisa's progress she made on the base because I had to start moving some stuff over here. On day 21, I was gonna go by my old base to farm with my Apex Anki when I quickly noticed he wasn't capable of farming any bushes. Like, bro, what? So I had to go back home to grab a vanilla dino just to farm some quick berries. The parasaur worked out without any problem, but I wasn't getting that many berries to begin with, but the seeds were the most important right now. Because we would eventually have to make another greenhouse a little bit closer to home so we don't have to go over here all the time. It gets a little bit tedious. But now, it was time to harvest some of these dinos since a lot of them finally grew up. They were essential to our progression and I didn't want to have random dinos just laying all over the place emptying our food troughs all over the time. But anyways, I had to start making some Apex Kibble and Sleepy Potion Remedy because we were still missing out on that other trike. And for us to actually make any progression at all, we will need it most definitely. So I tracked one down close to our base where I trapped it in so I can make it my friend. Alright, after getting a friend for the other trike, I had to work on getting a generator down since this place in here was so dark and we're gonna need some lights. The next day when I logged in, my character was completely broken that I honestly didn't know how to explain. Like, I've never experienced this before in my whole Ark life. Like, what is going on here? Oh my god. I don't know what's happening. Oh, I fixed it. But never mind that. We had some sticky situation to deal with because these buggers love to get sucked into the floor for some reason that we needed to harvest. As my trike babies were growing, I was curious about this boss altar, so I made one and I put it down to look at the bosses we have to fight. And since this mod is in heavy work in progress, there are not too many bosses available at this time, but there will eventually be a lot more than this. I went back to my old base to collect some more berries because we need a little bit of Tinto and Narco berries. And since there are these health potions we can make, we will probably want some of them for the first boss fight. So while I was waiting for my legion to get bigger and stronger, I took this time by going out to look for a doe to tame up by the Sahara Desert. There were a few of them around here, but I wasn't interested in a level 20. But then, I managed to find a 140, but it was way too high level for me to torpor right now, so I continued on my search until I ran into this level 55, which will be just perfect. I had to get rid of these dinos next to my Doa that I was trying to tame, but one of them dropped a charm that proved to be somewhat good that increased my weight capacity by twice the amount. That's a pretty useful charm, but I do wonder what else exists out there that I could possibly get. However, I got a Doa tame now, so it was time to go home and make a saddle for it. So now when I was out to try it out, I got so much stone from a few rock swings, like Jesus. That Doa was just insane. On day 23, I had a bunch of dinos growing up, ready to face their doom, but they didn't know that. But anyways, today we had decided to go into the snow zone to look for a specific dino we're gonna need severely. An Alpha Yeti. So what's good about the Alpha Yeti isn't just the shout, but apparently all of the Alpha dinos can buff each other with their Alpha status, which basically gives them damage reduction taken and more attack damage. It will be very important to get this one because we have no idea how hard the first boss would be, and we like to over-prepare for the first few bosses to get a proper measure of how difficult it can get in this mod pack. And as I was trying to get this Yeti's attention to me in this intense cold, he ran over to me and took a big chunk out of me instead, like I was some big ass popsicle. But when I got back to the Yeti, he was being bullied by a bunch of horses, so it was all for nothing. And while I was back at base, I grabbed the bear trap this time to immobilize the next one to then trap it in. And while I was back home just making some traps and throwing out some more trikes, Akisa was out tracking another Yeti down since she could handle the cold a little bit better than me. I found the Yeti Akisa pointed out and I put down my billboards to lead it in. The trap worked out excellent without any issues, but the corner was a true nuisance to me. Is that a monkey?
Ah! It's your poop at me! Ah, bad monkey!
We also noticed that the arrow seems to be somewhat capped on damage, despite the Kisa having 200% melee damage, while I had like 160, I think. Anyways, we got the Yeti tamed up. But we weren't gonna go for a second one, since we will just kinda ball it and hope for the best. The next day, I was gonna take my trike out for a spin to try him out, but the first thing that showed up was the freaking rock golem on the beach that I didn't really want to fight just yet as my first one. So I flew over to the other parts of the beach and his damage wasn't that exciting, honestly. It was just a big shocker to me since the pterodons almost does the same in damage, and those pterodons are an alpha. Then back at the base, I was gonna make a saddle for my 20,000 health Yeti, but I fumbled and I crafted the wrong one immediately, wasting our precious resources. Well, despite the saddle, I really do hope the health of the Yeti is enough to survive the Apex boss fight. To help with the health problem, I was gonna make some health potions from the mod itself, but I had to make some medical brews first just to make them. But now, some of the trikes had finally grown up that needed to be leveled, saddled, and healed up. We weren't quite sure how many we would need to send in for the fight, but about 5 females and 5 males would probably hopefully be enough for the fight. The health potions were really good as well. They healed the dinos to max. That's a big W to the dev for those potions. Alright, the trikes were pretty much all ready for the fight now. So then, I made a summoner for the boss fight and we went over to my starter area since it was just quiet here and we wouldn't have any interference with any random dinos. Akisa got all of the trikes placed out and then I was just about to summon the boss, but I quickly realized it's just a summon, so the altar isn't really used for summoning bosses at all. Alright boys and girls, here we go. Our very first boss spawned in, and in the form of a troll. 1.4 million. Oh, it does not look good, Akisa. It kinda looked like the trikes were going down as fast as the boss health, and we were quite nervous for this.
Oh no, we're losing drakes.
Oh my god.
Yeah, never mind. We got him.
But we beat the boss and unlocked all of the elemental kibble for the next set of dinos to tame. The boss also gave us his apex skull that we will probably need to summon the next set of bosses. We felt like this mod was really similar to Ark Supreme we played over a year ago. But anyways, that was our first boss fight, and it wasn't too bad of a fight honestly. And having that many trikes wasn't really a bad idea after all. I'm happy I actually overprepared. Then I went over to the Lonely River again to grab a bit of silica pearls because we needed more electronics for a bunch of structures. And that kinda marks the end of the day. I was still continuing to farm some silica pearls, and Akisa joined in to help me out, while I then saw a really cool bionic baryonyx just swimming in the water.
It looks super cool.
Maybe it looks too cool. Well, back at home, I had to get rid of some apex strikes because we needed some of the resources to make some ingots for tranks. But the bronze ingots were highly dependable on apex use. I wanted to get a little bit more of wood and thatch, so I headed over to the redwoods due to the trees tend to give a lot more wood. Oh no! But in the middle of it, a storm terror bird appeared out of nowhere and ended my honest peaceful farming. I gotta get away! No! I didn't make it. I managed to get back to the area and the terror bird had fallen down the cliff and I wanted to poke at it for a bit to see if something would happen. But I ignored it as soon as it dipped into the water because it was trying to bait me into getting dismounted. So, to be able to make the new elemental kibble, we would have to try to actually get some of this elemental dinos harvested. So then I was gonna try boloing this pterodon for its nature stuff, but then I got interrupted by a pack of terror birds again, which almost ended my pterodon's aliveness. Oh yeah, can I just mention that the fog in this game gets ridiculously annoying sometimes, making my sight absolute garbage. I almost forgot about the trikes, but I got all of them harvested now, so I could use their stuff inside the forge for my bronze ingots. So throughout the rest of the day, I took my Anki out to farm as much metal as we could. The Anki's weight was about 4,000, so we would be able to carry quite a ton. Today we wanted to get a move on with the next tier, so we're gonna eat some of these crabs for some of that frost elemental stuff. We just used our trikes for it, which was easier than I thought. We're just gonna continue working on a few more for now and collect as many as we can so we didn't have to do this often. So after going through a few crabs, we're gonna make some volcanic kibble to get a volcanic dino. So we need 20 frost essence. How much essence do you think you get per one? Ooh, that's 10. Oh, okay. So 1 equals 10 frost essence. Yeah. I wanted to get the proper industrial forge going, but we needed an exorbitant amount of metal to make it, so I guess it's time to cook. But while I was doing that, Akisa had made me a few apex trank darts because today we were gonna go out and look for volcanic wrecks to tame. We then found a max level one hanging by some herbivores close to the river. So I was then getting rid of some trees to prep for my trap while Akisa cleared the area of dinos to make the wrecks less distracted by other things. It also seemed to be some difficulty getting the wrecks into the trap because the bear trap itself doesn't work on it. So it made things a little bit more difficult. And not only that, but apparently King Titan was stomping his way over here. Well, I teleported over to the spot again, but this King Titan was just running amok. So I was trying to distract it further away. The plan kinda shifted a bit because I was trying to bait the King Titan away from the wrecks. Meanwhile, Akisa tried to trap it in. Akisa got the wrecks distracted into the mountainside, so I could put down some billboards to block it in. And then I went up on the side of the mountain to trank the wrecks, while the King Titan swung by again to spectate and touch me with his vines. I swear, like this King Titan doesn't have anything better to do. I managed to get the King Titan distracted away, so I went back to the wrecks to start tranking it. But apparently, the King Titan's aggro range is huge, and he went straight back here just to defend his friend. He was so committed to annoy us.
Oh, now I'm dead. You know, he had to work up his courage to punch me in the face, I guess.
This time around, I was gonna bait him pretty far away, hoping this will be enough to make him not come back and disturb us again. I still have no clue about his abilities except the punching and the shield thingy and the whines, but I just know that the nature type is a healing creature. So finally, after distracting the King Titan far, far away from the Rex, I got back to Akisa to help her knock out this Rex. But then he magically figured out a way to escape from the billboards. I was gonna put down some wood gates to prevent him from walking over the billboards again, but then he took a real big chomp out of me. He walked outside and destroyed my wood gate. So when I was back at base respawning, I had to get a few new gates placed out, but he kinda scared me when he fired a ball of fire towards me. But he was locked in now finally. What a true mess this has been, like jeez. By day 28, the Rex was knocked out, so I gave it some volcanic kibble and tamed our very first elemental dino. Now, we're just gonna need a mate for it, so we can get our army of Rexes going for the upcoming boss elemental fights. I was waiting for a bit of metal to melt so I could make the industrial forge, so in the meantime, I had to collect some more Apex stuff from these strikes. Akisa was starting to build a new greenhouse we've been needing, because the old one back at my old base wasn't enough for berries. Now, I was finally able to make the forge, but this version was so small, it was kinda cute. But now, with this new forge of ours, I went out to grab a little bit more metal, since making it cost us literally everything. The next structure I want to work on is the cam bench, but we need just a little bit more electronics and that cementing paste. I was in need of polymer and chitin for paste, but I couldn't spot any mantis at all. They were scarce from the looks of things. I might not have been able to find a mantis, but I found a very thick gecko to tame. Then we went out together to grab a bit of crystal, because Akisa ran out of it while making the greenhouse, so I just had to guide her to a good chunk of it on the map. And towards the end of the day, I had to get these strikes harvested. On day 30, I forgot to hit the recording button when I had made some of these elemental arrows. I am such a dumbass. But today, we had tracked down another volcanic Rex we needed in order to make our army of Rexes. Akisa was grappled on my pterodon while I just had to steer the birdie and she torpedoed the Rex. Well, to be honest, I was just eating some food while Akisa handled the Rex situation. And since we tamed a pretty low level volcanic Rex compared to the other one, we will need to breed the stats up by switching out the males every now and then, and as soon as it's an upgrade. From the first eggs of volcanic Rexes, I got quite lucky and I got triplets, which is perfect for switching out the old male and raising the two others to try them out. But anyways, we had a few more tries to get rid of because we still had a lot of lag in the area too. But we got quickly tired of them since they get so bouncy when their body moves around like that. Pushing on to day 31, I made a few scuba parts and then I went out to the river again to clean up the river of its silica pearls. We actually needed a little bit more electronics because we couldn't make any more soul terminals. But anyways, today I wanted to tame a shark or some kind of an ocean creature so I could explore the ocean depths. I managed to find a hammerhead, which was very new to me in Ark. It was pretty cool and I could just outswim it. So apparently to tame this shark, I need a specific type of prime fish meat. I started fighting this megalodon in the water with my trike to see if I could get some of its prime. It wasn't that much I got for the sushi, so I was gonna continue further out in the ocean where there were a few leads swimming around. So when I was to end the effectiveness of its prime and harvest it, a manta ray snuck up on me and broke my whole scuba armor. That kinda hurt and I was in danger, so I tried grappling my way back to the raft, but I drowned instead. Thank you Manta Ray for ruining it for me. Well, I managed to get back to the ocean and I found 2 of these piranha fishes to chop up for some Pacific prime. Now, with all of this prime meat, I was able to make just about 6 of this Pacific sushi to tame up that hammerhead shark. Then I brought it back home to sit in our small little pond because he will eventually come to some sort of a use in the future, I think. And by the end of the night, me and Akisa got rid of these epic strikes for their epic stuff. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to make any more ingots. On day 32, I was by the desert to quickly tame up some dung beetles for the new upcoming greenhouse that Akisa finished building. I just had to get the soul terminal placed out so the dung beetles can convert the poop into fertilizer inside it. And after I got that set up, I helped Akisa a little bit with the building by placing out some water tanks to irrigate the crop plots with the Bluetooth water system. We also had a very large quantity of lystros all lagging the base that had to be taken care of. And whenever they went to permanent sleep, some of them transcended to the heavens. We also got our first volcanic Rex's sacrifice too, for the greater good of course, giving us a lot of volcanic stuff which is basically elemental tier. It was then time to try out the Rexes we had, and I started fighting a Hydro Aloe, but they didn't seem to do too much damage to it. Probably due to the Pokemon mechanics, so to say, water is weak to electricity and fire to water and so on. To try it out, we tracked down a Frost Broodmother, but it was very close to that King Titan we had issues with last time. So then we had to track down another one to fight. So the reason we went over to these Broodmothers is because we read somewhere on their Discord, the Primal Nemesis one, that it was possible to unlock the tech grams by defeating a Brood Mummy. But we didn't get anything when we defeated it though. I had to place out a new generator because the nanny didn't receive any power from the one at the house, and I was gonna use most of the area here to raise my dinos. Then I got some lystros all thrown out again to grow. It's just crazy to me that we needed such an exorbitant amount of epic stuff in order to progress. Well, to be fair, it wouldn't be a survival game without some grinding. The area here is as weird as ever, especially when the dinos skyrocket towards the very moon. What? One of the Rexes is going up the sky! Akisa also asked me if I could go buy the oil rig to grab some oil that she placed out on day 15. But to my discovery, it has only produced 47 oil? Bro, what? So when I went to place down the new one, the oil puddle had disappeared. Like, bro, what is happening with this map? I decided to head over to the snow biome to quickly harvest up some oil instead. We were basically running short on gasoline in the base and we needed some more oil to make more. And then a bit later by the base, I actually made one of these new structures called the Industrial Preserving Bin, which can only be obtained by buying the Bob Tall Tales package. Pretty neat if I do say so myself. The next day, me and Akisa were out collecting a lot of more wood, so we didn't have to come back here anytime soon. But it was mostly for powering the Primal Nemesis forge since it didn't have an electrical one yet. Then I queued up some auto storage boxes to make, and these took a very long time to make. Reason for that being is that the visual storage mod we were using had issues with the pull system, and I got a bit tired of it, so it was time to switch it up to these boxes. Akisa was already placing out some of these boxes. We're gonna use it for Primal Nemesis items too already, but you wanna know what's best? My configs, especially since they already come packaged with everything for the pull list that you can get on my Discord by just joining. Anyways, then I was tilling the soil in order to make it grow faster, and that marks the end of day 35. We had now also finally achieved 2 perfect volcanic Rexes at similar levels, which means we can now start breeding dinos for the upcoming boss fights. I was also laying out the next army of Rexes that we were gonna use, and I didn't know how capable they would be for each individual fight, so an over preparation might be needed, in other words, backups. I threw out some defects too that could be collected for some of that elemental stuff we will need. However, we still had a few elemental dinos left to go and tame for the other 2 bosses, so I crafted a few more elemental arrows to prep for it. And while we were flying around looking for an elemental griffin, we saw an incredibly sized Karshar literally just standing on this plateau. But we saw the griffin and he was very close to the Karshar that we wanted to tame. But Akisa had to clear off everything else in the meantime I was baiting the griffin towards me. I managed to bait it into the trap, but my Pterodon had to take the L for the griffin. But that's okay, honestly. I'll be soon having a new powerful comrade that will be used for a tremendous amount of things. After pumping a lot of trank arrows into the griffin, it went out cold from the remaining trank arrows, so I could give it some kibble and tame it. Yeah! We are probably gonna need a second one for it to then start raising a few backups, because in this modded world, no matter how skilled you are at this game, you cannot do squat against surprise attacks. Anyways, Akisa and I went out into the snow biome to knock out another storm griffin, so I started placing down my dinosaur gates to then trap it in, you know. But suddenly, as I was baiting it over to the trap, this time around I took the L for this try. I managed to get back to the trap, but there was just too many dangerous things in the premise, and I got blasted into oblivion. Ah, God. What a bad timing. I think I lost my Rex, right? So, with Akisa and I taking an L from the destructive griffin from before, The Storm Griffin managed to glitch outside the trap somehow, so I was gonna try get it inside again. And that kinda marks the end of day 36. After many tries to get him into the trap, he was finally caught. So after taking so many attacks to my face, my mind and body was suffering like my armor that kept on breaking from each attempt. There was nothing to do about it, just clench my fist and continue with the torment. But at least the Griffin was trapped and only had to be knocked out. Feed the kibble, and in the end, tamed. At long last, we had a pair of them so we could start raising backups, and we'll probably use it for some upcoming elemental boss fights too. It was also about time to get some of these tree saps taps set up as well. We were still in need of more snails to tame, but we were just missing out on a few things like sap and honey. I took one of these newly tamed storm griffins out to the river to collect a bit more silica pearls. We were constantly running out of it for some reason, but at least they respawn pretty fast and in a good quantity too. I just needed to collect a bit of it so I could make a teleporter for the redwoods. After getting it crafted up, I flew over to the redwoods where I just picked a random tree to then place my sap taps. I think the spot I chose is good enough and hopefully nothing can reach it from this height. It's only a stone tree platform and I don't know which creatures can damage it, to be honest. Oh no! And after getting the sap tap farm up and running, I actually spotted a beehive from up here that I actually needed. So I quickly went back home to cook up some bug spray so I could capture a queen bee for honey making. So I quickly jumped up on my griffin to destroy the beehive to release the queen out of her nest. So then I could run behind her to give it my meat. Alright, it was an easy catch and I spotted another one in the distance, so like the other queen, I did the exact same thing. And then back at the base, I got the soul terminal placed out so we could get some honey passively generated inside the terminal. Seamless and easy, just the way I like it. No prep and no mess. Day 38 started with me trying to defeat one of these rock elementals. The rock elemental was tough and kept on summoning minions while the griffin could handle them gallantly with its awesome electrical ability. And after the fight was over, I managed to get some of this nickel ore, which is actually super important ore I've been looking for. Nickel ore? Oh, what? I got some nickel ore. Because with that ore, I will be able to make steel ingots that will be heavily used for the next tier of boss summons and the new armor set. Well, with my new powerful griffin, I wanted to take on this monkey, which should be a cakewalk. Ah! What? You know, this is what I least expected to happen, but anyone who has played this game for as long as me knows that this is one of the natural causes that seems to happen. Game is not in a perfect state, we can agree on that, but we enjoy a bit of disastrous gameplay, to be honest. Anyways, I successfully persuaded Akisa to try attacking the monkey too, which ended pretty well, honestly.
I was killed by a frost gorilla. I think you may have bamboozled me, sir.
How do you think I died? Either way, a little bit further into the north, we found another alpha beauty we could tame, so then we could start crafting up some backup beauties. We still only had a female back at home, so this will make it possible now. I was also now able to make a bit of veggie cake, so then I headed over to the swamp to go look for a snail, where I found a Hydro King Titan lurking. But up on the slope here is where I found a candy cane Acatina that I grabbed with my griffin. Then I brought it over to the sap tree where Akisa knocked it out and was gonna tame it for us while I went back to the swamp to look for any normal snails. On the next day, I found a normal snail, the very last snail I was gonna tame up for now. With this one, we'll mark it as a third and will hopefully be enough to produce some paste inside the soul terminal. So today, I figured I could try going out and doing these two treasure maps to get rid of them and hopefully find something useful for once. The first one I was gonna go for seemed like it was towards the redwood, so I headed over there. The first one was up, and it was not surprising to me that I wouldn't get anything good. Wow. And while I was heading over to the second treasure map, I got rid of some rock golems nearby for nickel ore. We're gonna need a lot of it eventually. The other treasure map I dug up was insanely good. Long neck rifle. Oh my god! 500 damage! Finally a good find from these treasures. We've never had any luck with it on Scorched Earth when it came out and we played it. So in case you kinda missed it, We have made 2 vanilla videos if that's your thing to watch, so go and watch it after this video. By day 40, I was by the very cold snow zone to look for some storm arges to tame, because there seems to be a major problem with the storm griffins right now. So every time we want to harvest up the storm griffins for its resources, the body disappears into thin air like it never existed. But after flying around for a while, I came across a storm RG and it was a good time to try out the new trank rifle too. Oh my god! No way! Oh, 23k. I was also spectating a Carno fighting a Celestial. I just couldn't believe my eyes. Wait, no way. What? No way! No way! I think a Celestial Featherlight is losing to Storm Carno from the bleed. Wait, what are they doing? Why did they stop attacking the Featherlight? Please continue! Oh well, I quickly tamed it without any worries. The new trank rifle is goated. I found the next RG a little bit further into the snow zone that I knocked out very fast. It was just a very low level one, but we didn't really need them for that. We only needed them for the storm resources that the griffins couldn't provide for us. As soon as I made it back home, my FPS insta-dipped below 30 due to having quite a big crowd of Lystros. So we had to take care of them. Alright, the next dino we will have to go and tame will be a Frost Carcinos next. The chitin and polymer it can provide us will be essential to our progression. And when we were about to go out, a Lystro was randomly floating above our base. I do wonder though how many creatures were floating at the tippy top, but I was too scared to check, to be honest, since there is no sky border. I had enough of all of these horses and I wanted to get rid of them. And we found out that there was a really good spot to farm these items and skins. We found a Frost Carcinos on the beach, but it wasn't a high level one, which we really needed right now. We also found a crab to tame, but there were just a few things like this rock elemental in the area that had to be taken care of. And Nikisa also took a boulder to her face. And after I cleared the area from the rock elemental, I noticed there was another dangerous dino here that actually threw off some bombs. The start of the next day, I was home crafting up the frost kibble now so we can tame a pair of frosty Carcinos. Nikisa had tracked down a high level Carcinos for us to tame, which was literally just below our base. And diving down here felt really cool. My trank rifle did pretty good torpor and I was quite pleased with its damage. Alright, now we got the crab tamed up. But we're just gonna need a mate for it and then we're kinda good. The next crab wasn't far away from us. It wasn't a high level one, but we can probably deal with that. Anyways, a bit later, Ikisa and I tracked down a Hydrorex to tame, but it was busy fighting a Bionic Enforcer that it somehow won against. If the Rex was capable of defeating a tier above itself, that's a strong Rex. The Rex kinda looked a bit silly with his grassy beard, but we can probably manage that. It might need a trim, but yeah. We just had to get another one and we should almost be set for the elemental boss fights after this. We could have probably just gone for it with the volcanic Rexes, but we wanted to make sure we had some other elemental backups in case things take a nosedive. So for the earth elemental dino we were gonna tame, we didn't really have much of an option except this earth Dodecarus. But when we were about to knock it out, a celestial phoenix swooped by to ruin everything. I felt a little bit sorry for the Doed because he was not in a good spot right now because we had a demonic Wyvern coming to town. Akisa was gonna grab me the Doed, but the demonic Wyvern took a bit of an interest in us instead. Oh no! So when I got back to the area, Akisa had found another one that she knocked out, so I just had to give it some kibble and it was ours. And that kinda marks the end of day 41. So we didn't really know what to do about the situation with the Doed since it had rolled up into a ball. So he wasn't getting any torpor at all from our tranks. Now for the nature dinos, we haven't really seen too many nature variants except Dodos and Pterodons, which are terrible. The Dodo wasn't really difficult at all to obtain, mostly because it's just a Dodo. So the nature dinos aren't a DPS class, they are a healer. I don't know how powerful they are, but hopefully not a disappointment. And while Akisa was knocking out the Dodo, I was being chased by a huge freaking bulldog. So back at the base, I set up the Dodos and I tried out the first person on the Dodo, which was incredibly bad. You couldn't see anything. On day 43, we had another Doed to tame up instead, but it was literally hiding by a chunk of trees and the Griffin was trying to steal it. Akisa had knocked it out, so I was gonna try and hurry and give it some kibble, but then I got snuck up behind. Ah! Like, this is so annoying. You can't even hear the phoenix swooping by at all. Its stealth is super high. It was not long before we found a new one, but this one was probably the lowest level of them all. The doad was quickly knocked out, but as soon as I was gonna feed it to kibble, I got chased down by a scorpion. But the doad tamed up fast that it stopped me from running away from the scorpion, ending it for me. Well, at least we got both doads now, so we can start raising an army of them for the upcoming boss fights. I'm honestly hoping we don't really have to use them, because we are getting very close to day 50, and we haven't even started the next tier of bosses yet, so I was sweating a little bit. It was getting a bit too cramped having all of the breeders in one spot, so I wanted to split it up a bit by placing out the big dinos in one spot and the small ones in their own. On day 44, I placed out a metric ton of baby volcanic rexes for us to harvest once they were ripe enough. We had so many of these rexes and we needed to clear them out. But after throwing out about 150 volcanic rexes, my FPS got reduced to a measly 15 FPS. What am I doing with my life? Anyways, we were starting to finally cook up some volcanic rex saddles. We were getting ready to attempt our very first elemental boss. We will eventually have to harvest some of these new nature dodos so we can make the new nature health potions. But towards the end of the day, we had to level up all of the rexes and heal them up for the very first boss fight. Hopefully all of this preparation will pay off. Well, it is a new day, and this is the day where we're gonna attempt our very first elemental boss fight. But before we could attempt it, I had to make some of these new nature health potions which heals 10% each second, which is 5% more than the alpha. Then I made the summoners for the elemental boss fight where our apex boss skulls and essences came to use. But now it was time. We went over to my starter base to summon in the boss where a huge summoning circle spawned in along with the boss. Whoa, it's a King Titan! So I went to my alpha unit to give these guys just a slight boost for the fight. Ah, I got dismounted! Okay, that really hurt! Oh my god, where's my health potion? Oh. Did he just destroy our base there?
Yeah!
So when we defeated the boss, we unlocked the next tier of kibble along with some frost seeds that will have to be planted for fruits. Oh my god, he destroyed everything! Well anyways, we didn't want to waste any more time at all, so we jumped straight into the next boss, which is the Hydro. Our Griffins were doing an amazing job for it, but I accidentally fat-fingered the wrong key and dismounted. I managed to get back to the boss fight, and this is something to take notice of. Bosses like to ground you if you use a flyer, so you can't actually move sometimes from a spot and you become frozen in place. But we could at least still damage him. Then after a couple of minutes, he was finally defeated and we unlocked some more stuff. Oh, Hydro Titan Egg Incubator. Oh, okay. So, wait. So, in this egg you can craft your own Titan. What? That seems so cheap.
Well, that's how much the egg is. We don't know how much it's going to be to craft it in there.
On day 46, we were gonna attempt the volcanic boss, the most intimidating of all of them. Rexus seems to be able to tank through this without any issues. Oh. That was easy. Bruh. Should we try doing the rest of the bosses? Just to see how far we can go?
Yeah, we might as well try.
I'm gonna go grab the rest then, okay? Oh my god, my FPS is like 5. The Earth Colossus, I wasn't even sure if he did any damage to us at all because he was no challenge.
Yeah, you know what I think's really helping?
What? The alpha buff?
That UD's really helping, yeah.
Next up was the Storm Colossus, but like any other fight, I just kept my distance and let the Rexes handle it. Like man, the alpha buff and UT buff basically makes these Rexes invincible, you could say. Like they get 2 times the amount of damage and defense with the alpha buff than the courage roar for even more. After healing up some of the Rexes that were heavily damaged, we were ready for the very last elemental boss. Oh. Summons minions. He killed his own minions. Omega lol. Wait. What's this HP? Never mind. Well, that's all of the bosses, smile. It was kind of an eyesore coming back to base due to all of these volcanic Rexes. They had to be dealt with before we could do anything else. So we spent like around 20 minutes getting rid of all of those Rexes. We just kept on bouncing, which made it very difficult to move as well. It even continued into the next day, like this bulldog was getting thick from all of this loot. And so, from harvesting all of those elementals, we managed to get an insane amount of stuff from this. This is probably gonna be enough for just one more tier. Okay, so to make the new set of kibble, I will have to start planting these seeds we have for specific fruits. So I will have to get rid of some of these old planters to make some room for the new seeds we obtained from the boss fights. I spent a few minutes trying to get it properly set up again, but all we can do now is just to wait for the fruits. We can't really progress without it. And since we didn't really have much to do right now, I took my Griffin out to collect some more stuff, but generally, I would want to start harvesting up some bionics so we can get some better tranks when we go tame them. I managed to find a bionic out here, but it was not one I wanted to harvest. This will be a potential one to tame in the future. The next day, I went through the engrams and I saw that we only had a few options to tame for the bionic tier. But we had some fruits now and I felt ready to get some bionics. So then, I made a few bionic kibble, like I wasn't sure how many we were gonna need, but 4 should be enough to tame most things. But after making the kibble, we set out to tame the Rex and it had 2.4 million torpor. So it was gonna take a while to get him knocked out. So I was gonna attempt to trap it in, but this new Dino AI makes it very annoying for me to get him into the trap, because he will just walk all around it. As a last resort, I was pushing him into corner to trap him in, but he did so much damage to me and I took a trip to the afterlife because of it. And for some reason, he managed to get himself meshed inside the mountain, so we took advantage of the situation. So after a few hundred trank arrows and darts combined, he was finally out. Now, we had one of them and we will definitely need a second one so we can start raising an army of them for the next boss fight. On day 50, it was time to make one of these Titan egg incubators because I was curious how we would get our own Titan. And apparently, you will have to drop in a lot of resources in order to make the egg hatch that will have to be knocked out and then tamed. So, to get started on that, I threw out a bunch of chickens to raise and then a bunch of roly-poly since we need all sorts of elemental special use to make it. But either way, we went out to tame another Rex so we could get started on the Rex army, but the one we were knocking out was just the low level one, so we're probably gonna have to breed it up. At least it was easy to knock out. The next day, a lot of breeding was underway because we had to get those Rex levels fixed. But when I was out farming some dinos, one of them managed to drop an incredible charm. Lucky healing charm? Oh, it's a dino charm. Wait, what? I can't use it? Wait, how? Oh! That's actually insane. I have scoured the Primal Nemesis Discord for any list of these charms, but I couldn't find any list at all or how many charms actually exist. I went over the resources required for the Titan egg and apparently we need some sort of a storm heart. I think we could probably only get that from a wild roaming King Titan, but I wasn't quite sure yet. Akisa wanted to try taming a bionic enforcer out by the desert and wanted some assistance for it. But it was hanging by a celestial ceratosaurus and very close to demonic wyvern. We know how dangerous they are. So in the meantime, I took care of a few dinos nearby that dropped the lucky jump charm. Lucky jump charm! And while I used the charm, I quickly noticed that I had no weapon recoil anymore. Okay, that charm is actually great. I can see that Wildcard still haven't addressed this issue after a year of release. Oh boy. But back at base, Akisa was super excited to show me something she got.
Mike, look at my chibi.
How do you have a bee already?
My chibi!
How did you get the bee?
It's dropped when I killed something.
That's ridiculous.
And isn't he the beast?
On day 53, I was trying to figure out how to start working on the celestial tier because I was mostly just curious. So the first thing we're gonna actually tame is the bee. We wanna go out and check how to tame the bee because it says we need celestial honey and I don't know what we need in order to tame it. So then, we sought out to look for these bees to see what we need in order to tame them. You need demonic kibble to tame a demonic queen bee. What? We need kibble to tame the bees, right? But the kibble itself requires the bee honey from this.
Maybe you harvest honey from dead bee.
Maybe. Well then, time for some aerial combat. Oh, do you guys remember the charm I put on my Griffin a few days ago? The health one. Oh! So, apparently, when a Griffin takes the big L, the body goes poof into thin air. Oh, I got some demonic honey.
Ah, same.
I got 2 demonic honey. We had a few more doeds the other day to go through for the resources because their stuff is essential to our very progression. We had some frost carcanos fully grown now, so I was about to make some salad for them, but I discovered we had literally no hide for some reason, even though it feels like I farmed a lot of frost dinos. So then I went over to the snow zone to see if I could find some wyverns to eat. I'm pretty sure they gave a little bit of hide. I found one and it was just about enough to make my carcano saddle. So after I was done with that, Akisa wanted to go fighting one of these roaming king titans, so we went over to the beach to prepare for it. But Akisa walked way too close to the godly king crab and baited every monster towards me. Faster! Oh my god! So when I woke up, I took out my frustration on the very first thing I saw. Okay, so unfortunately, I don't have the footage for day 55, as much as I would like to say it's for some technical reason. In truth, it's just because I forgot to start the recording. But to summarize what I did that day, I basically spent the whole day racing and breeding dinos, so nothing you guys wouldn't want to watch me do either way. On day 56, we were ready for round 2 against the nature Colossus on our bionic Rexes. But we instantly realized we had apparently some sort of an obstacle in our way with incredible power. Alright, with that massive L, we took it with a grain of salt on our grievous wounds, and I coped with that moment by throwing out a lot of babies to grow up that we can harvest, while Akisa tucked herself in a corner somewhere in the base crying. We were a bit disappointed because we just raised those bionic Rexes. Well, since we were waiting for new bionic Rexes to grow up, Akisa took us to one of the dungeons on the Amissa map to check it out. And after walking just a few feet, I was really questioning where all of the dinos were, but then I could hear that creepy Arthur sound with a lot of legs crawling around in here. The loot, however, wasn't half bad, but it wasn't anything we wanted at all. But when Akisa was clearing the dungeon from the bugs for us, I got bitten by an Arthur. It also ripped my whole armor set, like whoa. I managed to get back to the dungeon, where the next part was leading us to a staircase down one more level with the Stargate portal. It just took us outside, which was actually really nice. The next dungeon led us to the redwoods, where there was a cave, but the entrance was being guarded by a massive megalosaurus that Akisa dealt with. There were a lot of more cave tunnels leading downwards, but it felt a little bit unfinished at the moment, because the map was still under heavy development. In this cave, I found the artifact of the pack too that wasn't that hidden and was easy to grab. The next day, we were by the snow zone next to a big mountain where there was another dungeon. But as soon as we went in, I saw something I truly despise. Oh hell no, I don't want to relive this moment. I went on foot instead because I didn't trust the bulldog at all and had my crossbow with the grappling hook ready to be launched within a millisec. But then we ran into our first roadblock where there was a flaming thorny inside it and Akisa couldn't squeeze through the opening. So I shipped away some of the rocks to let Akisa come forth and deal with the thorny. Akisa got rid of the thorny, and at the end of the tunnel was the artifact of the brute. And when we got back home, my FPS dropped significantly, so I wanted to try getting rid of them, and we needed their bionic resources either way. So when I used the euthanized gun on the Rexes, some of them got launched into space. I've seen some weird stuff on Ark, but I don't recall this happening on ASC at all, but I might just be a loser that doesn't know. Well, now Akisa and I had some new bionic Rexes to use since ours got defeated by a bee before. So it's now time to go fight the Colossus because we had the Rexes ready. Akisa landed close to it where I dismounted into a really bad spot. Okay. But never mind that. We started blasting the boss from a distance and Akisa went close to it and noticed how strong these Rexes were. That King Titan had absolutely no chance against us. So after we defeated the Colossus, he actually gave us his heart. So that must mean that all of these Colossus that's roaming the world will give a heart. And the hearts are just for making your own King Titan. The Rex's ability to launch those spheres was really enjoyable and easy to control. But then a bit into the swamp, we saw a volcanic Colossus hanging around where we started blasting him with our attacks. And exactly like the Hydro, this one stood no chance against us. We felt incredibly powerful. On day 59, I was testing out a Rex with only maxed out in health, no damage, to see if it make any difference compared to damage one. The Storm Colossus still went down insanely fast, so we were slightly thinking it didn't really matter how much damage we pumped into the Rex. We tried it out by attacking another Colossus down in the snow zone, and Akisa did exactly 2000 like mine. And if you're wondering why it doesn't go above 2000, it's because its damage is capped. I don't know why they decided on this, but this means that there's no point in melee stat. The last Titan we had to defeat was the nature one, and he went down super fast too with little to no effort. then Akisa and I decided to attack one of these godly king crabs, so we got ourselves up on the mountainside to shoot at it from up here. Well, the godly king crab got defeated. He didn't really drop anything besides some godly hide.
I got godly hide.
Seriously? Only hide? Then we fought the godly trike that didn't do anything besides just taking a bunch of purple spheres to its face. So a bit later, we went over to the desert zone to fight off a celestial gigantoraptor with the demonic parasaur grouped up in there. They were just raining a hellfire of attacks on top of them. After right-clicking for a few minutes, they were out of this world.
I got celestial blood and hide. I also got demonic blood and hide.
So after fighting those dinos in the desert, they gave me an idea for how to farm these bees we've been struggling with. Wildcard recently introduced Aberration with the new Bob Tall Tales pack, which introduced a lot of new cool things, like for instance this Zeppelin. So I made one and then went over to my base to deploy it. The plan was basically having the Rex on top of the Zeppelin raining hellfire upon the world. I spotted a bee on the mainland and I rained hellfire upon him. This is one of the most ridiculous ideas I could come up with, and this worked out so well, and it gave us some demonic honey when the bee got defeated. There was some slight problem with this though. If the bee flew too far up in the sky, the sphere attack couldn't damage it at all. We continued with this even on day 60. This was a really good way to get all sort of that juice from the dinos. But today was time to try out the bionic boss, so I made a summon for it. We went over to my old base area and summoned it in. It seems to be some kind of a floating metal boss or something, but we couldn't do anything against it and I flatlined pretty fast. Huh? Like, we have no clue what happened there. So when we teleported over there again, the same thing happened. We couldn't figure out what we were doing wrong, so we went on their Discord for some guidance. So after looking through their Discord, we figured out that the only thing that made sense is that this mod has a trait-like system where we will need a rider protection on our Rexes in order to survive any of those attacks. And those traits can only be obtained through looking for wild dinos in the wild. So the next day, Akisa had made us the primal gene scanner to use, but I'm gonna be really honest here guys, I have absolutely no idea how to use this thing. So on the right side you can see what kind of traits it has, and if you left click on it, a menu comes up that lets you extract its traits. To summarize, Akisa found out that there is a rider protection trait we can get for our Rex that we need so we can do the bionic boss. So we checked all around the base to see if we had that one. Then I went over to the desert to see if I could spot any of that trait. It seemed to me like there was a crap ton of options available. Like, we have absolutely no clue where we can find them because this system was so new to us. Then after a bit of searching, I actually found one with the trait on this doad, but it cannot be extracted if it's wild, so I had to go back home to see if I could make some kibble for it. Yeah, nope. We didn't really have any regular eggs available, so I had to feed it these slow major berries that will probably take an eternity. So, when the doad was about to tame up, a demonic griffin had shown up and ate my doad with the rider protection. All that waiting for nothing. The only option now was to go out again and look for that rider protection. The next day, Akisa managed to find one with the trait and she brought it back to base, whereas she extracted it and was gonna apply it to the bionic Yuan.
Target must be baby. Target must be match.
Ah, so the trait has to come from a Rex then. So for this we got the scanner installed because I had to check all of the Rexes on the map and I wasn't gonna go spend a year tracking them all down to find that rare rider protection. But after flying all over the place, scanning, eating and scanning for more Rexes, Akisa found one and told me to come back to base. I extracted the rider protection and added it to the Rex that was growing. It also seems that you can add 5 gene traits to it, which seems pretty cool. But this marks the end of day 62. All we could do in this situation right now was just to wait for the Rex to grow up, since it was our first one with rider protection. On day 64, we actually ran into an extremely bad thing. The Rex we were waiting for to grow up was floating up by the sky border. So Akisa went up there to see if she could pick it up, but apparently it completely poofed as soon as she spotted it. She saw it for less than a second before it poofed. So that's another day for nothing. It's unfortunate, but this is Ark. There's always gonna be something to kick you in the balls. This is kinda crazy and we were severely disappointed. But either way, we had a backup plan for the boss fight. All we have to do is just wait for the rest of the bionic Rexes to grow up. On day 65, I was out catching myself a pygmy rex because I wanted a trait for my bionic rex. And as soon as I came back to base, Akisa wanted to show me the gene storage where you can store all of the genes you collect and you just take them out whenever you want to use them. Man, this is so new to me, I felt so overwhelmed. Akisa also made me a stopwatch which apparently manipulates time so it will just teleport me back wherever I place my checkpoint. Anyways, a bit later outside, I was out hunting for Rexes with traits where I stumbled upon a Colossus trait for a Rex. Like this was just a baby, but with the trait, it looked like an adult.
Oh my god.
Take a look at it.
Oh my god. It's enormous.
The next day, the Rexes were all finally grown up. My small little Rexy was so cute while Akisa was covering the whole base with hers. The only thing we had to do was level up some Rexes in preparation because we had a plan on how we were gonna be able to defeat this boss. I flew down to the ground to place out some maxed out Rexes in HP since they will do all of the fighting while we sit up here on the ledge. I will just remind people who skip part of the video, on this fight is when you need the rider protection trait on your dino in order to even stay alive while mounted. But we were gonna try doing this from a distance and hopefully stay alive. We didn't really feel like spending a few more hours to find one with the trait and then raise a Rex to then test it out. Okay, I got the bionic boss summoner and I went to the area where the fight was about to begin. I used the summoner and I flew up to my Rex and I made it up there without getting caught by the boss. So the only thing we just did was just kept on attacking from up here while those Rexes down there were supposed to attack it, but it didn't seem like they did too much at all. So I threw out one of the extra bionics I had on me to let him attack the boss. I had to go back to base to grab a few other bionic Rexes to throw at the boss because the bionic Johan didn't seem to do anything. But now it seems like we're going somewhere. I started to see the HP going down fast and then we defeated it. Oh, I got demonic and celestial QoL. Oh yeah. Sure, this was the cheese of a tactic, but I don't care to be honest. That rider protection trait was so rare and we searched through about 40 to 60 Rexes for the trait and we found only one that vanished into the thin air by Ark. But anyways, I went over to that dangerous beach where the beast kept hanging around to tame myself a demonic variant. It wasn't a hard one to knock out to be honest due to how slow they fly. But as soon as it was out, I had to go back home to cook up the demonic kibble to then tame it. I turned it into a demonic beehive and I placed it down by the greenhouse, and this one will provide us with the demonic honey we'll need for kibble. But to make the rare flowers, we apparently need demonic juice in order to craft it. So we had thought about taming a low level demonic to then keep on raising them and harvesting them. But there are no low level ones, so we decided to just do the Zeppelin thing to harvest up the necessary bees for honey to make some kibble. I was then messing around with the ladder and a grappling hook and I managed to grapple Akisa out of the Zeppelin, which ended in a tragic way. That's so far up.
Sir.
Are you falling down?
Sir!
Wait, how did you die?
Hard in your face! Because you grappled me out of my ship and smack downed me into a parasaur.
Alright, after getting the necessary honey for the kibble, we were still lacking on celestial and demonic blood to make the kibble. So I guess it's time to go slay some more demonics for the resources. After a few minutes of doing that, we finally got them slayed for their demonic stuff. This tactic made it too easy. But we were still continuing on getting rid of a few more demonics into day 68 because we wanted to have a little bit more extra in case we need more. So then back at home, I made the remaining 7 celestial kibble we needed. Then we found a pygmy celestial thorny we wanted to knock out. He was very squirmy also, which made it really hard to hit with our tranks. Akisa was gonna try trapping it in, but it proved to be somewhat, problematic. Even today was somewhat difficult to get him into the trap. I put down some billboards to somehow guide him to walk into the trap. Just about leading him in there. Akisa managed to get him into the trap, but she had to suffer again for it, but at least we got him trapped now. So after putting him to sleep, I went back home to grab the kibble. And when I was about to give him the kibble, his inventory was not accessible. I can't access his inventory. We read some heavy discussion on the Discord about certain few celestial dinos having missing inventories. I even tried relogging to see if that would fix it, but no. We tried a few things like a mod reinstall like they recommended, but it still didn't work at all. So all of that time spent into nothing. We were quite irritated. We considered giving it a few days to see if Mr. Chaos can fix it, otherwise we will just tame something else. Alright, a few days later it finally happened. So now it was time to go out and tame a celestial thorny. The pygmy wasn't around anymore, so we had to go for another one, but this one was a little bit easier to hit compared to the pygmy. We got the celestial thorny tamed up and placed out by the base, but we just need a mate for it so we can start making backups. Akisa was already tracking another one and I just joined in to help her. But now we have a pair of them thornies. While we were waiting for the Thorny Legion, I wanted to work on this Titan egg, but apparently we were missing on some boss skulls along with sushi. The sushi I could understand that we were missing, but the skulls were actually missing. Something might have happened to the skulls when we reinstalled the mod like Mr. Chaos recommended on a post. But this is not a problem, we can just run the bosses again. So I went by my starter base to fight the Apex boss and you know, it was so easy. But that, however, allowed me to make the boss summoners for the elemental boss fights. So then we went over to the desert area to fight the titans because we wanted a little bit more headroom to walk around. And it's not like this was difficult at all. The only thing I was missing out on was the Pacific and Atlantic sushi, which can only be obtained through the respective prime fish meat. So then I went out into the ocean to look for another hammerhead to tame, but I just couldn't find anything. On day 73, I found a low-level hammerhead I started tranking and then knocked out. But I had to go back home just to grab some sushi for it, but I quickly realized I had the wrong set of kibble. Wait, what? Dude, I'm so stupid. It's the wrong sushi. I got the Megalodon chopped up for some Pacific meat, but I needed more. But not too far away, I managed to get another one so I could go back home to make some Pacific sushi for the hammerhead. So, before I was gonna go tame that hammerhead, I actually spotted two Colossus Megs next to each other that I knocked out and tamed. I already had the sushi on me so. And let's not forget about the hammerhead. I took them all back home to let them breed so we could harvest their lineage for some prime fish meat. The next day we noticed that we were running into some problems with the fish on this spot because as soon as the babies pops out, they apparently disappeared, which is probably caused by their overwhelming size. So then we got them placed out close to my old base instead, which will definitely work a lot better. I noticed that we had an Atlantic and a Pacific saddle for Shasta, so I tracked one down to see if I could trank it, because these ones doesn't have to be tamed the ordinary way, you just have to knock him out. I got it easily knocked out and tamed, so. On day 75, I got the saddle finally made, so I went over to the sharks where we placed out by the beach. I was gonna show Akisa this creature because we never tamed one on the center like we were supposed to do. It was actually wicked how the tech saddle functioned, but it was just slightly dark in here though. But now we had our own thornies fully raised and ready to be used, so we took them out to the desert to fight some elemental bosses we saved. We were actually destroying these bosses with our ability. This was just insane. Oh, no way! Oh, you got nuked! I just kept on summoning these titans because we weren't really struggling against these and we wanted to be done with these. Alright, it was now time to make the last remaining sushi to make the fertilized titan egg. We pulled the rest of the stuff for it, but we weren't crafting it here though. We went into this hole to summon the boss there and he was such a small titan. It was apparently just a whelpling. What is he doing?
He's struggle bussing.
I gave it the kibble and was trying to see what kind of attacks we had on him. It didn't seem like he could do anything special, but it's probably still a work in progress dino. But anyways, today we were gonna attempt the next tier boss, which is the Celestial and Demonic, but we only had stuff for the Demonic boss. The Celestial summon was missing a bit of demonic stuff so. So then, I went over to the snow biome to harvest up some demonics while Akisa took another area. This was also a perfect time to level up the Thornies. The heat reg for this ability seems like it was struggling a bit to damage flyers in the air. Alright, it was just enough to make the summoner for the Celestial boss. So then a bit later, we went over to the arena to fight the bosses. The demonic summon was actually really cool, but the boss didn't put up much of a fight since we destroyed it. Oh, I got the godlike kibble. The next one was the Hydra, which was insanely good looking. This boss was doing a little bit more to us, but it wasn't enough to defeat us. Really easy. But before we were wrapping up the mod, Akisa wanted to check out another dungeon, which apparently had some mummies inside it. That was pretty cool and threw us off guard. Alright, day 79, and I made some godly kibble because we wanted to see if we could tame a godly today as a last thing before the final boss. We went over to the redwoods where we found a godly queen broodmother that wasn't hard at all to knock out. He literally didn't do anything, he just stood there and took it. But we got it knocked out finally, and then I put the kibble in its inventory. We gave it almost half of day 80 to tame up, but it really didn't want to wake up despite giving it kibble it required. So today we decided to wrap things up and I made a godly boss summoner. We brought over a lot of our dinos that we had throughout the series to fight him as a memory. And then we summoned him in and it was a big monkey. Oh, look at Bulldog is going in. The boss spun in with almost 2 billion health, but he wasn't doing too much other than just standing there. We spammed our abilities so much that my FPS reduced down to 30 or less. Well, yeah, this is pretty much it of the boss fight. But after just spamming our right click on our mouses, we beat him. And that was actually, how should I say it? Easy? Yeah. Now. I don't want to sound too bad about this, but this was possibly the easiest boss fight we've ever had. But anyways, here's another video we finished really early, but the fact is only due to the mod missing a lot of its content. But I hope you guys don't really mind, but we'll probably cover this one again sometime in the future when it gets more updated. So if you liked the video, make sure to subscribe, like and comment what you thought about the mod so far. Bye!